Hi, this is Zachlog the Great. If you've watched some of my other videos, you may know by now that I'm a Christian. A Catholic, to be more specific. I may someday record a video about why I'm a Christian, but right now I'd like to talk about why I'm not an atheist. These questions are related, but not quite the same. I have two primary reasons I could not be an atheist. One is consequentialist, and thus, I admit, bad philosophy, but I still think holds weight. The other is more strictly philosophical. I'll start with the consequentialist argument. The first point I would like to make absolutely clear is that I do not think atheists are, as a group, bad people. Some probably are, some are not. I know of some who are most likely better people than I. Religious people can be good or bad people. Atheists can be good or bad people. I do not dispute this in the slightest. That said, although individual atheists can be good people, there is serious question as to whether atheist societies can be good. There have been few explicitly atheist societies in history. France after the Revolution, the Soviet Union, Maoist China, Cuba. Every single one has been nothing but a horror of bloodshed and oppression, and this has not been a gradual decay from a decent, honest society. When an atheist regime took over, mass murder and oppression began immediately. Now, you might say this is hardly fair because there are many countries today that, although not formally atheist, are very secular and practically atheist, such as most of Western Europe. I agree, but these societies can hardly be considered healthy. The only way to describe these countries, in fact, is suicidal in several ways. First, despite being affluent, these countries have functionally outsourced their national defenses to the United States. This is not because of scarcity. If they chose, they could afford powerful, competent armed forces. They have chosen otherwise. This is not the choice of a people who value their collective survival. Second, the secular nations of Western Europe are not having children. The native birth rates have collapsed to well below replacement rate. Now, for a nation, having children is much the same as cellular reproduction is for an organism. When the cells of a multicellular organism stop reproducing, it begins to die. When a society stops having children, it begins to die. These secular nations are choosing to die. Thirdly, if this were already not bad enough, they are inviting in masses from a radically different and hostile culture, and not making even the feeblest attempts to assimilate them. Many of these nations have significant amounts of territory where their laws simply are not in force. Practically speaking, these are colonies of foreign powers. These nations have invited colonists of a foreign power. Suicidal. Now, can I demonstrate cause and effect here? No. but the correlation is certainly significant and requires some kind of explanation. I think irreligiosity is most likely a part of that. So, that is the consequentialist reason I cannot be an atheist. Atheistic or highly secular societies are questionably viable. They appear to be horrifically toxic to the human spirit. Sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. Now, for myself, more importantly, for my children, I want a society that is neither murderous nor suicidal. Now, to the more philosophical reason I cannot be an atheist. I said individual atheists can be good people, and I stand by that. The problem is that they don't know why. There are exceptions, but most atheists are, in terms of their ethical standards, parasites. Most will say that theft is wrong, murder is wrong, but they cannot give a coherent why. And no, I'm sorry, but intelligent religious people have much more to offer on the subject than because God said so. Atheists largely assume the ethics of the religion they have rejected and think they can separate the moral reasoning from the religion and still have a living morality capable of restraining our worst impulses. This belief, well, it does not appear to be well-founded. Then there's the problem of Chesterton's fence. Most atheists don't even seem to recognize the difficulty, let alone address it coherently. G.K. Chesterton said, "In the matter of reforming things, as distinct from deforming them, there is one plain and simple principle. A principle which will probably be called a paradox. There exists, in such a case, a certain institution or law. Let us say, for the sake of simplicity, a fence or gate erected across a road. The more modern type of reformer goes gaily up to it and says, 'I don't see the use of this, let us clear it away.' To which the more intelligent type of reformer will do well to answer, 'If you don't see the use of it, I certainly won't let you clear it away. Go away and think. Then, when you can come back and tell me that you do see the use of it, I may allow you to destroy it.'" This paradox rests on the most elementary common sense. The gate or fence did not grow there. It was not set up by somnambulists who did it but in their sleep. It is highly improbable that it was put there by escaped lunatics who were, for some reason, loose in the street. Some person had some reason for thinking it would be a good thing for somebody. And until we know what the reason was, we really cannot judge whether the reason was reasonable. It is extremely probable that we have overlooked some whole aspect of the question if something set up by human beings like ourselves seems to be entirely meaningless and mysterious. There are reformers who get over this difficulty by assuming that all their fathers were fools. But if that be so, we can only say that folly appears to be a hereditary disease. But the truth is that nobody has any business to destroy a social institution until he has really seen it as an historical institution. If he knows how it arose and what purposes it was supposed to serve, he may really be able to say that they were bad purposes, or that they have since become bad purposes, or that they are purposes which are no longer served. But if he simply stares at the thing as a senseless monstrosity that has somehow sprung up in his path, it is he, and not the traditionalist, who's suffering from an illusion. We might even say that he is seeing things in a nightmare. Now, not all, but certainly a significant number of atheists don't seem to recognize that several millennia of human civilization might have accumulated a bit more wisdom than they, in their several decades on this planet, have scraped together. Whenever they run into a rule or tradition they don't happen to like, instead of saying, "I wonder what is the purpose of this?" they assume there is no purpose and pull it down, then wander off mumbling about their mental and moral superiority to the entire human race prior to them. Most frequently, these rules they are so eager to smash are about sexuality. Ultimately, this is nothing more than arrogance, the assumption that until the day you arrived, the planet was almost entirely populated by complete idiots. And this attitude is far too common among atheists. So, there are my reasons I cannot be an atheist. I emphatically do not wish to live in the kind of culture atheism seems to create. And I do not see them as having a meaningful moral foundation. Finally, I am not nearly arrogant enough to think like most atheists. If you happen to be an atheist, I do not wish you ill, but I would urge you to take a look at this kind of society your lack of beliefs produce. Is it somewhere you want to live?